Hey, Debbie Kitterman here. I just want to remind you that I will be doing live via Zoom my Dare to Hear training classes using my book, Releasing God's Heart Through Hearing His Voice. It's going to begin on January 18th and run through March 8th. That's right, 8 weeks, 7 weeks using the book, and one bonus week with something really special that I have planned for you. And it's going to be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time zone. Again, that's via Zoom, but you're going to have access to me for 2 hours. I'm going to teach on my material. We're going to do activation exercise. We're going to get you equipped and honed in on hearing the voice of God. We're going to fine tune your hearing. We're going to be working with other people and be able to minister to one another. It's going to be a fabulous time. So I hope that you can plan to join me on Tuesday, January 18th, as we kick off the 8-week live class. If you'd like to register, you can go to the show notes or you can go straight to my website at debbiekitterman.com/shop, and you can register for these classes that are going to be via Zoom. And also, if you're looking to donate to Dare to Hear, you can find that on the website, or you can PayPal at info@dare2hear.com. And you can do that because, yes, we are looking for people to partner with us so we can continue to bring you the great content that we're doing, but also to do some of the other things that God is calling us to do. So thank you for those that are partners with us. And also, I look forward to having you guys join us for the Dare to Hear training classes. Well, without further ado, we're bringing you this week's episode of Dare to Hear the podcast. Enjoy. Hello, I'm Debbie Kitterman, and welcome to Dare to Hear the podcast, where we equip you and challenge you to dare to hear the voice of God. Well, I am excited. This is a first for us on Dare to Hear the podcast. I actually have a musician. Her name is Hester, and she is a visionary sound receiver and engages in creative inspiration regarding music. She is a veteran music teacher, multi-instrumentalist, recording artist, producer, and founder of Breakthrough Music Today. Her musical passions and skills are multifaceted, involving both herself and the equipping of others to create and display the sounds they were created to make by God. Her beautiful compositions have largely been a walk of her God-given faith in a creator that pursued her, called her, gave her a gift, and even showed her how to share it. She focuses on releasing sounds of love, peace, and joy, and raw in the room type of production. Katie believes there is much desired place in the digital world for real interaction, so she tries to produce with minimal editing and do whatever she can to make it feel like you're right in the room with musicians. Much of the music Katie works with is done in healing frequencies of 444, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Katie enjoys the rest of life living with her amazing husband and son. They love the outdoors, sports, food, nature, playing, music, laughter, and getting to know people. It is hard to find them out together without them speaking to somebody, usually trying to give a little life and encouragement to people, and often with a laugh. Katie and her husband James believe life is too short not to laugh and to point to the beauty of and love of our Creator. Well, Katie, welcome to today's episode of Dare to Hear.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'm really excited because this is a first for me of having a musician come. And in fact, I've asked Katie if she would play for us, and because she has 3 Christmas albums, and we're going to talk about that during the episode. But she's going to kick off today's podcast episode with one song, "Oh Holy Night," to set the tone. But she's going to play another one for us later when we talk about the 444 frequencies. So, Katie, without much introduction besides what I've already done, go ahead and play for us, please.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That was beautiful. I love it. I love O Holy Night too. So, hey, that was such a great way to jump off today's podcast episode to set the tone and the atmosphere really for Christmas. It's just a few days away. So, Katie, thank you for playing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, okay. So I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about how you got started with this. And I wanted to ask you about the name of your ministry too. But my first question is that you started out as a classical flutist and a music teacher. Okay. And then God had other plans. So can you kind of share your journey that took you from the classical flutist and the music teacher to what you're doing today?
Yeah. So, 757 years later. No, I'm just kidding. So what, being a classical flutist and a music teacher was good. It's not bad. In fact, it's well needed. Yes. I'm a big advocate for music education, for orchestras, for all different types of music. As long as it's positive, I'm all for it. However, God just kind of took me a step beyond that, I guess is how I would put it. It was almost like this dream in my heart that I used to sit there, like even in music school, I would be around composers and I'd be like, how'd they do that? I was pretty highly trained. I was very, very gifted. I had amazing parents that supported me. And I went through this thing. And then, when I was around 20, I became a Christian and Jesus became Lord for me. He wasn't just like this item on a shelf. Yeah, I could believe in him. He became my Lord, my Savior. And I decided to just commit my life to him, which is funny because really he pursues us, but he pursued me and I said, yes. Okay. And, as I went through just my life as a Christian, constantly being renewed, I go from glory to glory, better thing to better thing. It's just, he's the never ending hope. He's amazing. He kind of put me in a position where actually I moved a little far from my family and I had all this time. And I started kind of messing around with different instruments, and lo and behold, I started writing. And as I started writing, I started playing in different places and getting all sorts of experiences, had season after season of equipping me, just all sorts of different facets. And as I went through this, I came to a point where I was hearing songs and I was hearing things. I didn't really know how. I didn't know how I was doing it. I would get, like, let's say I would play up worship band and let's say I was playing the flute, because I play different instruments, but let's say I was playing the flute. I would literally hear like, play an E, play an E, play an E. And my music theory mind, because I love music theory, I could talk about it all day. It's so fun to me. It's something most people struggle with, but I love it. And as I went, I would know that it didn't make theoretical sense, but I would do it and I would start hovering in these tones and I would get a lot of positive feedback. A lot of feedback of it drawing people to the Lord and me as well. I mean, it was like a magnet. Like I would play and I'd just be like, Yeah. And as I went through, my growth, and this kind of wrapping it up, but as I growing in the Lord, process to process, a couple things happened. Mm-hmm. The first thing that happened is I realized I was operating by peace, that what I was following was peace. Okay. And so I would know that has peace and that doesn't. And I would go through this. Okay. And that's the biggest thing, because he gives us a covenant of peace, whether we know that intellectually or not. If you're born again, you have the Holy Spirit, he gives you a covenant of peace and all right. And so his sheep hear his voice, so I would just hear his voice in these things. And beyond that, what I realized too is after several years, I really wasn't walking in receiving the Lord's love. I just had a lot of blocks going on. I had a lot of growth that needed to be, had in terms of him pursuing me and me realizing that, not me trying to get to him, but him pursuing me.
Right.
And I realized after years that every song that I ever wrote, whether instrumental and I heard a title for it, or ones with words that I'm working on some singer-songwriter stuff, and I've done things like that. And every one that I've ever really been inspired and just kind of received and heard versus went out and created, all of them were about God's love. All of them. And I mean, it was literally like maybe, 7, 8, 10 years later, I was like, God's not writing anything except about his love with me. Regardless of the style. It wouldn't matter if it was happy boppy, soothing, if it sounded like a country song, if it sounded like this healing music, it was all God's love, peace, and joy. Yeah. Every one of them. And I just, that was my journey. And so, I'm here. I'm a person that needed to receive his love for myself. And so when I share that with people, it's something I know, and it's something I'm still growing in, of course, But,
yeah. Well, and I think it's so important too, because we can't, if we don't receive that from him, we can't actually give him out. And how important it is in your music to understand his love, joy, and peace. And that that's the overflow of how you play and what you play through. So, and it was very evident in the song, Oh Holy Night too. So my daughter was a flutist too, growing up, and she was really good. And, but then she just decided to not do anything with it. But I always loved hearing it so much better than when they tried the violin. So I love listening to the violin, but when kids are starting to teach, or learn, and they're being taught, I was like, oh, okay. And I know that you're a violinist too. So No,
I'm not.
No, you're not. I thought it was. I said, because I thought that there was the violin Christmas and flatted.
There is. If you remember Breakthrough Music Today, that I'm
yes.
Part of equipping other people. So that violin is somebody that I'm collaborating with.
Okay. Well, good to know. Okay. So then this is my next question that leads right into my next question then is, why do you call what you do breakthrough music today? And what is breakthrough music meant to do?
Well, it's kind of a little bit in the title there. It is meant for breakthrough. It is, my whole story is something I received. So it's not that I was sitting down at a table one day and going, well, I think I'll create a business plan and I'll create it to be breakthrough. That's really good. That's a good term today. It wasn't that at all. Yeah. He gives to his people in their sleep. I was sleeping and I woke up and I heard breakthrough music, and my husband and I, we kind of went through he helps me with the technical end. We went through this process of just trying to find a domain and then blah, 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 and that was kind of some complicated stuff there. And so we ended up going with breakthroughmusictoday.com, get that in there. But the reason is because, a couple of things. The today is because your breakthrough is today. Okay. Jesus is now. He wasn't yesterday in the future. He wasn't he is actually yesterday in the future too, but he's available now. He is available now. That breakthrough is available now. And then, the breakthrough is just that, breaking through into his love. Okay. Music's just a facilitator. I mean, what's funny is that's a little tricky probably for a lot of musicians to come to that point because we love it so much. Yeah. It's a language. It's a language. You speak English, I speak English, and musicese. And it's a language that's beyond words. And so to me, as much as I love music, I have to be humble with it. It's just a facilitator of God's beauty, of God's grace, of his love, his peace, his joy, his righteousness. The kingdom of God is righteousness, peace, and joy. And music was originally created to do just that. Yeah. And so that's where it's from. It's breaking you through. It's helping you, assist you to be the best you that you can be in union with the Lord and just kind of bring you back to that place.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because most people don't know this about me, but I used to work in the worship arts department. I was actually an administrator in the worship arts department. And I kept saying to them when they hired me on, okay, well, I used to play piano and I can read notes, but I am not musically inclined. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. They're like, actually, we want you because we don't want a musician, because the musicians, we want them to create, we want them to be in and ministering to people through that. And so, and I learned that there is such a thing as musicese. There is a language all on its own, and working with creative people is really different, and you have a different mindset. And I learned so much during that time, working for my boss at that time. We're still really good friends, and she composes now too. She's retired from pastoring, but she composes and she writes and she does all kinds of things similar to what you do. And so that's why I was so excited to have you on. Now, you did talk about, because I thought that, you know, in reading the bio and some of the questions, that you actually played violin. So before I get to asking the question about this, what instruments do you play? Because you play more than the flute, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us about that. And then I was going to ask you about the Christmas albums, and then I'm going to switch gears just a little bit.
That's fine. Flute is my main instrument. That's the one I went through music college on. That's the one I did. I was training all these different orchestras and things like that. It set the foundation. I also played piano. I'm pretty fluid at that. And I also play guitar. And I can technically play saxophone. Don't own one anymore, but if I did, I could probably play it pretty well within a few months. And outside of that, those are my really piano, flute, and guitar. Though is what I'm really fluid on. What I really can present and sound good today. You know, every other instrument I understand. That's why I can work with other artists, because I have a music education degree. I understand how the other instrument works. I can tell you how to play them. I just, you know, they're not my main thing. So I'm not at home practicing violin, right? But I know enough to be able to, you know, work with that.
Okay. Well, so tell us about the 3 Christmas albums, because I really wanted to put you in before Christmas so people can get the opportunity to download all of your Christmas albums that you have with Breakthrough Music Today. So there's 3 Christmas albums that were just released. One is the Violin Christmas, the Flat Jazz Christmas, and the Flute Christmas. So talk about those with me. And then obviously you're working with other artists. So
yeah. So the Christmas flute one is actually older. I don't remember exactly how old, 2 or 3 years. I had renamed all of my music on artist name of Breakthrough Music Today. So some stuff appears new, but I actually did it a couple years ago. Just because I took the name Katie Hester off and put Breakthrough Music Today featuring Katie Hester so that I could work with other artists.
Oh, I love it.
And so the Christmas flute is just flute, and it's very, very calm. It's different from how I played. It's for how I just played Oh Holy Night. It's very much the melody, just very soothing and like this, okay? And that was a few years ago. The Flute Jazz, this is a flute, okay? Flute Jazz Christmas and Violin Christmas, make sure I'm saying that right. Yeah. Those are both, I just did those like couple months ago at the most. Yeah. And what I did was I played all of the piano backgrounds, and I'm working with this violin friend of mine, and it was actually for her. Oh. But I had in my mind, you know, I could use this for other stuff. And I decided to just try playing flute to it. And lo and behold, I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. So what happened with those 2 albums is very, very neat, because they're the same background. And I love the message that it helped me receive, and that I see in it. And it's very much like fraternal twins, because the background is the same. The violin plays very straightforward with some improv, but less moving around. Like I was moving all around in that thing, you know, and but still some improv, but minimal here and there, effective. And the flute is more jazzy and just kind of almost dancing around the melody. And because these are melodies that many people know, we can still pick up on the actual melody that's implied in it. Yeah. I love that both are beautiful in their own right. Neither one is, I mean, you may like one better or worse just because your personal taste, but both are great. Both are putting forth, you know, things of the Lord, you know what I mean? Yeah. But so it's just really, really beautiful. Like, I don't know about you, but I've known fraternal twins that are they are each awesome, but they are so opposite.
Yes. I went to school from grade school on up through, high school. We graduated together, fraternal twins, and there were some similarities in them, but yet they were distinctly, uniquely their own individuals. And it was it was fun. So I completely understand that. And I think that the beautiful thing about music and the way that you allow the Lord to allow you to receive the music versus trying to create the music is I really, I want to talk about that because you talk about it a little bit, but I want you to break that down just a little bit for somebody who's not musical, because part of the Dare to Hear podcast is all about hearing God. And you kind of talked about how you hear God and how you kind of followed him, but can you kind of just articulate a little bit more for us the difference between receiving sound from God versus trying to create?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a deep work for me, but I always preface it with the scripture that his sheep hear his voice. Okay. Even non-believers are created in God's image.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we are spiritual beings and we hear all sorts of things. Okay. We may not realize it, but we hear all sorts of things. And we're also creative. Everybody on the planet is creative in some way, shape, or form. They may not recognize it, but they are. They may be creative at, their house decorating or their cooking or something. I don't know. That being said, creating in itself is good. It's fine as long as you're doing good things that bring life and not death. Don't bring death. That's bad. Bring life. Okay.
Yes, please. Yes.
It's the truth. There's always a counterfeit out there. However, the receiving part, it comes in a quiet space. For me, like I said, I speak music. Like I think in music. I run into a cupboard and I go, oh, like all the sounds come out of me all the time, and I sit and I'm still. Okay. I'm still. And as I'm still, I hear something. Okay. And it's a matter of just obeying that voice. Yeah. And obeying comes down to trusting. Yeah. And that's what's happened with me. Like I'm there, and God is so merciful. People don't have to master this today. It's more like an invitation. Hey, this is possible. Yeah. Hey, dip your foot in, try this, because God is merciful. Music was the area for me that I was the most comfortable, what I was used to doing. So he just took that and said, okay, Katie, let's come over here and I'm going to meet you in your music world. And he just started showing me stuff. And then I would see the fruit on the tree. I would see it. And it's really just hearing, receiving, and going with it. Now, let me say one thing. One thing is that it's a collaboration, and that's very, very important. And that took me a long time to get, because I was hearing direct, and I still am hearing direct songs, direct, like I would hear these things and I'd be like, oh, that's so pretty. Oh, or I would write words, and I'm not a verbal processor. Yeah. That's not my strength. So I would write words, and I was laughing because I'm married to one, but we balance each other out. We're the opposite, That's good. Man, but it's, it's the opposite. But the thing is I would write these lyrics or something, and I would look at them and I'd be like, oh, that's really great. Good job, God. Like I knew it wasn't me, but because I was hearing these direct sounds, I would be like wondering where the rest of it was. Like for so long, I would be hearing like a snippet. We call it a motif, or in pop world, it's a riff. I would hear like a little snippet of sound, and I would hear kind of where it goes. And I'd be like, well, that's not enough for a whole song, God. Don't you know that? But it was an invitation for me to jump in. Okay. And there's a river in the Lord, the whole Ezekiel river thing. Yeah. There's a river of life. And for me, I jump in, and when I jump in, when I take my step in there, he goes, there you go.
Love that.
It becomes with.
I call it the cone of silence. So I'm so glad that you're the one, I'm not the only one. And that you talked about that a little bit, because it is receiving. And when you receive versus create, cause like I'm a writer. So when I write or when I'm doing something, I know when the Holy Spirit is downloading it versus me trying to make it happen and I'm trying to create something.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're in that, I'm trying to create it on my own with the Lord. It's different than receiving, but I like, if I can get in that cone of silence with him and I can just sit with him and then he just downloads it. And so that's so beautiful. Not being a musician, the way that you described it, I was like, oh, you're right. And we've talked about on this podcast before that we're all creative, whether you recognize it or not, that we were created by a creator who is creative, and we are creative ourselves. And so you just have to tap into that. Okay. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because the Christmas albums are not the only ones you have. I want to talk about too about why it's important to you to work with other musicians, because obviously you worked with other musicians, and that's part of breakthrough music today. It's not just you and what you do, but it's other people. So talk about the importance of that and including other people in what you do.
I would say I'm on the newer end with that. Okay. It is a lot of me. All I can tell you, I can't really create a fancy answer. What I can tell you is, I'll actually give you the motto for my church. I'm going to steal it if they don't mind.
Yeah.
So
you go right ahead.
When I showed up at my current church, they stated, equip, empower, and release as their thing, And when they said that, I went, that's it. That's my heart. Okay. Theirs is more like they're working as a full church body. Mine's more with artists and things like that. Not that I'm against non-artists, but it's more my calling to work directly with that. And there's a beautiful sound out there. Okay. There's a heavenly sound. There's a great restoration to be had with sound in general. Okay. And there is a beautiful heavenly sound, but seriously, and anything that is love, peace, and joy, there's a sound to be received and taken out there. There's not a lot, there is now with the whole digital platform, but there's just not a ton of place for that. And so as I was going through this, I just feel like it's for me to put a place there for those who God aligns me with, those who I have a piece with working on, to help them have their sound out there. And help us collaborate in relationship, because relationships are so important.
Yes.
There's a Trinity out there, Like you didn't just listen to God. It's like God, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, And I just, my heart is just to lift people up in the sound that God has given them and say, hey, that is important. God made you this way for a reason. There's a place for that voice. And it's just, my heart is just to get that out there, because if it, I feel like, why were they made otherwise?
Yeah.
Why do I like the kinds of music I like, that I'm drawn to? Why do I communicate the way I am? Why am I silly the way I am? God had a need and a desire for a Katie Hester on earth. And I feel the same way about other people and other styles and other just ways. And I just think that's my heart. That's my heart, is just put them out there, let them minister and free them. It's like freeing a caged bird. Yeah. When you work with people who are ready to release that sound and they need a place, and they need an uplifting or, a little help along the way, or just some collaboration. Sometimes they're not, I'm not necessarily teaching them, but it might just be I'm collaborating with them. Yeah. But there's a connection there. So
I love that. Because I think it's so important that there is that collaboration, especially within the body of Christ, that we collaborate together and we partner together and we come together, because we're all different parts, but we all have something to add to the whole. Okay. I'm going to ask you about, we talked a little bit about in your bio about the 444 frequency. So can you talk to me a little bit about what healing frequencies are and what makes 444 so special? And then I'm sure I'll have other questions from whatever you say based on that. But I know a little bit about it, but not a lot. And so.
Yeah. So there's much to say here. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's just start with a basic scientific explanation. Okay. Quite honestly, when I first started, hearing about it, and if you do a quick Google search on healing frequencies, you're going to get a whole lot of stuff. some of it can look a little odd. I'll just be honest with you. It can look a little odd. It can look a little bit like, I don't know, not Jesus, you know? And here's the thing. A frequency, it's just, you know, it's like the vibration of something, okay? And scientifically, everything on the earth holds a vibration, okay? Down to your thoughts. It's a vibration. Everything in science is just pointing more and more and more to how literally down to like these microscopic little things that we're made of and that the earth is made of and there's different materials, they hold vibrations. Okay. Even in the science world, there are people that are having, you know, procedures done and stuff by what? By sound waves, you know? And so there are good vibrations and there are not good vibrations. Okay. When you are around something that is very negative, sometimes you can literally just feel it. Yeah. And then this is just a practical way. Like you say, there's just a lot of anger in the room, especially if somebody like me, where I kind of have a set of antennas and, you know, I kind of can feel that, you know, you can feel it. Same thing with love. You can feel it. And it is a technical fact that love is a vibration, you know? Yes. Love is a vibration. It's in 528. Okay. So to get back to 444, it's one that has clarity. Some people do call it the key of David. I am not a technical expert on this. And I say that not to put my own self down, but just to tell you the truth. What happened with me is I was receiving songs. Okay. And I was receiving songs and I was playing and I was going through this technical training of myself. I was going, wow, I just want to get my classical chops back on my flute, you know? So I'm sitting there working with the tuner and everything. I kept playing sharp. And I was like, why do I keep playing sharp? And from a technical aspect, that is all a frequency from 440 or standard tuning to 444 it's just a little sharp. So that's where you don't have to think of something scary and ooey gooey and weird and out there and, you know, out in space. And you know what I mean? It's literally just playing slightly sharp, but that vibration holds a lot of healing properties, a lot of things like that. So as I was going through that, I literally had like this journey where somebody literally found my music lesson page where I teach and had prayed and blah, blah, blah. And then they came upon me and I was like their answer for a music teacher. I'm like, thank you, God. And a couple lessons in, they just hand me this information, which they hadn't even read that much themselves, but they were just like, here, have you ever heard of this? And they sent me this website and this information and I read it and it was really a miraculous process. I read it and I read it fast. And for me at that time, I was struggling with my focus and reading, and I was getting through a lot of illness, to be honest with you. We're delivered first, you know? And so I was very, very ill and I was really struggling mentally just to sit down and read a few paragraphs, let alone a book. And I sat and I read it and I read through like 160 pages just like that. And this is where I was struggling with just a few paragraphs at that time because I just didn't feel good, you know? And when I read it, I knew it was for me. His sheep know his voice. Yes. So it had peace on it. It had like awe and wonder. And I was like, wow. And so I just started doing all of my recordings from then on. You know, it was just a couple years ago. I just started doing them all in that. And the long story short is, like I said, it's a vibration that you can change your instrument into tuning and it holds healing properties. And there is information out there about the key of David. I don't want to go into that too much just because I got to read it again.
No, and that's okay. Cause I think it gives, I think sometimes when people talk about frequencies and healing frequencies, they go, oh, that's new age. I know. Cause I just went to a conference and I spoke at a conference back in September and people are like, oh, I'm like, listen, everything originated from God. Anything that is contrary to the origination of God is a counterfeit. And this came from God. He spoke things into existence, which brings me to your realization that as you were on your journey from being, classically trained flutist and a music teacher, you had this realization from the book of Genesis. So share a little bit about that. And then I'm going to ask you to play again, because I think giving people a sound to go with what we're talking about, but share the realization that you got from Genesis.
Yeah. And if you don't mind real quick, let me just give a quick example.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Before, like it's new age, it's all this,
yes, please.
Here's the thing. if you look at, and I always say a tree, I think, because I just love nature, but if you look at a tree and the person next to you looks at a tree, you both see the beauty of God. You both experience this particular plant's healing properties, maybe whatever you use it for. Mm-hmm. And you're just in awe and wonder, you're like, wow. Person A goes, oh, that's God. They're going to worship the tree, or they're going to attribute that tree to some God that they think is God, but isn't. Okay. Or something in their mind that they call God, they call spiritual. Okay. But the believer recognizes, hey, God created that tree. That's a picture of God's beauty. That's a picture of God's heart. I worship the Lord and I thank him for creating that. I'm going to go ahead and use that tree for the beautiful shade and the beautiful healing properties that it brings, because my God loves me and he gave me this beautiful tree. You see, this is it with the healing frequencies.
That's so good.
You know, sometimes we don't have to be hateful about people who are attributing it differently than us. Okay. The thing is if you don't know, you don't know. You know, I'm a product of grace, and God made himself very, very clear to me. He pursued me. He made it very clear that Jesus is Lord, and that he's the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm a product of grace. So I just see this as just like, it's just one more thing out there that God created that's beautiful. And hey, we might as well have a party with it because he made it that way. You know?
So that's so good, Katie. I thank you for sharing that and bringing that in, because it really is the truth. And then when you think about too, what with the 444 being the key of David, I was thinking about this, that David often played for Saul when he was being tormented, and there was healing in his playing. And so it is through the scriptures. It doesn't say, and David played in this key. But there was healing properties that were coming from the music. And then I was thinking about Daniel, and I was thinking about how they didn't know what Daniel was because he kind of did what, the magicians and soothsayers did, but they're like, wait, your God does this way better and you're more powerful than us. So we're going to put you in charge of all them. And that really was because Daniel's heart was for the Lord, and the Lord worked through that because Daniel's eyes were on God, and he was able to model what it meant to walk in the truth and the real of the power of God. And so that's so great. Okay. So the realization of sound from Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of is summarized with some of the things I already said about everything being in vibration and things like that. Yeah. He created the world with a word. That's what it says. Because he said he spoke these things into creation, right, in Genesis. And so in my mind, I feel a little bit like I can get my Poindexter classes on here and go, well, did God speak English? What language did God use? Right. We know that things are in vibrations at this point, with matter, and that's scientifically proven. And so I don't have some scientific study here stating this. I just feel like it's possible, very possible, that there are certain vibrations that just came forth from him. And it may not have been a word in, say, Greek or English or Aramaic or whatever. We can vibrate, and certain things are created. Yeah. Okay. So it's really no deeper than that, is that it's possible. And to me, the thing is when I look at the Bible, if I don't understand all the technical details, okay, because I don't know anybody who does, okay?
Me either.
But if I don't understand the technical details, what I look at is the heart and the character of God. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at with that, is like, wow, I'm in awe of God. I'm in awe of how he's pursued me. I feel that it's pretty obvious. If I went through all the details of that story, it was just really, really obvious of how in the world I came to this realization, or better yet, revelation, that this is, and that's it. I just don't have much more than that at this point, but that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yes, we're all at different points. And I think it's important that you share where you're at for those that aren't even there yet. And yeah.
Yeah. God is so merciful. He comes to get us, and he shows us something, and he offers a chance for us to dip our toe in his river. Okay. And taste and see that the Lord is good, for those who by practicing good and evil, I'm probably misquoting the exact words of that, but we start understanding the use of good. His sheep know his voice. You know what I mean? So You know, my charge is just, if you don't know him, give him a chance, you know, check him out. If you do know him, give him a chance. Check him out.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. So Katie, you have another song that you're going to play for us.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and then play?
Sure. So a comment that I get a lot of times when I play this particular style of music, I just kind of call it like healing music, healing flute, you know, violin, whatever. But I get just a comment that's beautiful. And I hear that a lot. And this song I was hearing for a long time in my head as I was going through my journey. And this song is called Beautiful. It's done in the frequency of 444. So the frequency itself, like just like, that's not it, but that's playing very, very low in the background. And my piano's tuned to 444. And all that means is it's tuned to 444 and I'm playing in the key of A minor. As I just, you know, play with it, I just received the sound. What's really cool is I'm going to play a lot of it, very similar to the exact recording, but I have this thing where something's never exactly the same. So we're going to see what comes out. I'm going to try, but you know,
okay.
It's a journey, and I jump in and I'm just feeling it now. Like there's a lot of peace on this song. There's just a lot of peace. And I just want to share that peace. And for me, when I hear this, it's almost like I crawl in this little hole and I'm in there. And what I was thinking about this earlier, we kind of get to the point here, but I was thinking about this earlier, like, what is this music for, God? What is, you know, because I'm listening to it and it's so deep and I'm just like, oh, you know, and I feel that it's a picture of God's intimacy. Okay. And he's there. That's the message I was receiving for myself this morning and for others, I believe.
Yeah.
In this music is like, you know, we like to share our big testimony and this and that, but you know, life is messy sometimes, and sometimes we're hurt, and sometimes we get bruises and bumps and scratches. And sometimes even if we don't have a bruise and bump and scratch, we're sitting there lashing out over something or kind of freaking out over something in our mind. And God is such a pursuer that he comes to us in this space. He comes to us and he says, hey, I love you. I'm gonna help clean you up. And it's gentle. It's gentle. He doesn't take us and just go, okay, get up and go. That's not God. He's just, you know, he's amazing. And so to me, this song is just, it's a picture of the intimacy that we can have with our creator who loves us and he comes to get us. So
that's good. That's beautiful. We're ready.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this speaker on because that's important.
Okay.
Okay. Grab my flute. Little logistics here.
Okay.
Your device is connected.
Okay. So here it comes. Other song.
That's okay. Yeah, there was so much peace on that.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel that, and it, yeah, like just soak that in, people, right there. Just soak that in, and you know, this is, you know, recorded, and you're in your place, and I'm here, and I know that when you record for your albums and stuff, like it's just the pure sound and the pure tone, and no technical anything gets in the airwaves or doesn't come across. So before I ask you how people can get copies and download your music, I do have one question, because I wanted, like, you know, God gave you this breakthrough music today. He's given you the ability to do this. You're working with all kinds of different artists and people to help collaborate with them. But how do you envision people like me who aren't, you know, musical creators, but how do you envision us listening and streaming and using your music?
Yeah. So on the front page of my website, I have something that says change your atmosphere, a little dash, and it says love, peace, and joy. Okay. So there's a wide variety of ways you can use this. You can just listen to one song. You can listen. I would suggest look at the titles if you have a chance. You can sit and deeply listen and deeply receive and deeply soak with it. Yeah. However, it's also possible just to put it on in the background. One of the things my husband and I do sometimes is we actually just play it at night while we're sleeping, and just play it, because on so far I think there are different styles on there, but let's say just in the style that I just played, there's like over 4 or 5 hours of stuff. You can just hit a playlist or whatever, and or download or whatever, and just play it. Okay, and that's one way. Other things that I have vision of is like people like in their businesses or during their work day. If you want to just have peace, love, and joy, you know, being distributed out. You know, secular music, it's great, and in many ways, if it's clean, but trying to get to that place, it's something a little tricky. Okay. And I just feel like this is a way to be sure that what you're having is peace, love, and joy. You name it. I mean, I like the concept of just kind of listening to it in the background to set the pace for your day. Yeah. You know, I will say that I receive quite a bit of wisdom, quite a bit of just relational time with the Lord, just listening to it, even if I'm, I don't know, doing some administrative work or washing my dishes. Some of these songs I'll receive while I'm washing my dishes. I know that sounds silly, but it's absolutely true, because he's relational, you know. But there, you know, deep moments in there too. So if you feel that you want to sit and go on a journey with them, I think there's 11 albums right now, and some of the albums, I literally named them kind of the way that I write them. I just kind of jump in and I'm like, okay, what's this named? And what I'm hearing, I go for, and then I go back And I looked at them and I'm like, man, some of the albums, if you just read the titles in a row, you read them, it takes you on a journey in itself to restore you to that intimacy with the Creator. And some of them are just kind of a process, what happens to us, you know, kind of like the book of the Song of Songs book, like the journey that takes us through. Some of them are kind of similar to that, and that this is a journey that you can go on with the Lord. And it's what I said before, taste and see that He's good. Just kind of dive in there. But that's the way I see it. Just, you know, businesses, your home. I mean, this sounds silly, but if you want your dogs to be calm, it might help.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, playing it in the atmosphere of our workplaces too. Like, right. Sometimes we're not allowed to play Christian music, but this is instrumental music that definitely has the Holy Spirit all over it. And like you said, you can flood your atmosphere with love, joy, and peace by playing these songs. And not only is it going to affect you, it's going to affect other people and the whole environment. And I absolutely love that. So Katie, can you tell us, how can we connect with you? How can we get downloads of your albums, especially the Christmas ones right now? Because Christmas is only a few days away. And so how can they do that? But how can they look at the other albums that you have too, if they want to play those in their workplaces and in their homes?
Yeah. So I do have a website, but I state that it's breakthroughmusictoday.com.
Okay.
Exactly what it's called, .com. However, I know a lot of people are going straight to their preferred site. Okay. So I have them distributed to a large number of sites, right? And so if you go to Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, you know, or iTunes, or whatever your thing is, most likely if you search the words Breakthrough Music Today, something of mine is going to come up. And then you just click on it and go to the artist, and it should consolidate that for you. At that point, you can just listen to a sampler or whatever you do, or you can put them in a playlist, or you can download them. If that site has downloading, like on iTunes, you can download, right? And that's pretty much it. If you have trouble with a particular thing, you might want to add my name in there, Katie Hester. But most likely, if you type in Breakthrough Music Today, it should show up. Worst case scenario, put my name in with it.
Okay.
Right? And remember, it says today, though.
Yeah.
Okay?
Breakthroughmusictoday.com.
Yeah, Breakthrough's a popular name. So if you just put Breakthrough, you're going to get a lot of stuff.
Right.
So,
well, and I have links too that I will drop in the show notes for everybody, so they don't have to guess on some of those things. So I think I have your Spotify link, and I have your YouTube link, and I have some other ones, and I'll make sure your website is on there as well. And then I'll put the little key things that you said, you know, if you can't find her, search for these things. So I have all those links. So Katie, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your beautiful music that is really heavenly music. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's a blessing. I so appreciate what you're doing, and just, go forth,
Yeah. Well, I just think it's beautiful. I mean, and listening to Oh Holy Night, which is Christmas, but then going over to the one that was beautiful and peaceful. And that was just, I'm like, I need to download a bunch of these albums and just play them in the background in our home and just really set the atmosphere, especially I think in the world today. We need that peace, love, and joy to be evident, because we walk out the doors of our homes or into our workplaces and love, peace, and joy are not evident.
There's a lot of noise in the world.
There is.
This is just kind of like taking that noise and going, and just putting it in, just taking a step towards that calm place.
Yeah. Well, this was a great conversation, and what you do lines up great with what Dare to Hear is all about, and teaching people to hear the voice of the Lord. So I just appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to interview you and to get your music out to my audience. So go download, go check her out, go look at these things, especially for Christmas. So we want to wish you a Merry Christmas from Dare to Hear the podcast.
Yay.
Merry Christmas from Katie as well. And just a reminder that right now I have a special going on for my classes that are going to start on Tuesdays in January. And there is a significant discount if you want to go sign up at that on my website. But as far as that, I just want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. And I look forward to joining you next week on another episode of Dare to Hear the podcast, where I'm going to release the word that God gave me for 2022. I want to thank you for listening today, where we encourage you to dare to hear the voice of God. I'm Debbie Kitterman. Now go share this message, go download episode, Katie's Music. Until next week, have a Merry Christmas. God bless and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
I'm not in the thunder, I'm not in the rain, I'm not in the winds of the hurricane. Look to me, I'm drawing you near, I have called you, did it hear? 'Cause there's peace in my presence, so do not fear. Oh, do not fear, I have called you. In the fall of the mountaintops, I'm not in the fire and consuming flame. I'm in the whisper that calls your name. 'Cause there's peace in my presence, so do not fear. Oh, do not fear. I have called you, did it hear? He has called you, did it hear? He has called you, did it hear?